Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. My children were rambling on and talking about Roombas. We bought a new non-iRobot Roomba since, iRobot now is a thing of the past.
CES is full of them. There's so many Roomba-like devices.
Everybody just jumped in there, right? But we bought a new Roomba competitor, about a Roborock, which works really well. I'm actually very impressed it has LiDAR.
Yeah.
So my children were talking about Roombas, comparing it to the new robot that I bought that has LiDAR. The new robot doesn't touch anything.
Doesn't have to, sure.
It doesn't ram into anything, and it does an excellent job mapping. I'm very impressed. I'm hoping it's durable because otherwise I love the thing. My kids were like, oh, we thought it would be more like the Roomba that would bounce into stuff. And I was like, no, it makes it a lot quieter.
Yeah.
And my son had said something like that's how the Tesla should work. They should just ram into stuff and then change direction. And I laughed because I thought that was really funny. And I said, I said, I'm actually going to use that on the show. I was like, I'm going to use something they said on the show.
It's a good line.
My children then laughed at me and said, no, Daddy, that's where we got it from. We heard it on your show. And I was like, Oh, I see.
Oh, no.
You're better listening to my show than I am because I don't even remember saying that.
Quiet, please.
Like, imagine a Tesla trying to make a right turn. It just bounces off like the telephone pole and then backs up.
4,
Pretty close to what it does.
Like,
Yeah,
pretty much what it does.
2.
Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 4, Episode 1. Happy New Year. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stittle.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, house by house, brick by brick. How an entire Swedish city is shifting 2 miles to the east.
This sounds like the worst IKEA project ever.
Ship caught with anchor down after Finnish-Estonian cable severed.
Look, as a guy who's been caught with his anchor down more than once, let me tell you, the Finns do not take kindly to it.
SpaceX moves half its Constellation to dodge debris.
Oh, I drove a Dodge Debris in college. That thing was a bucket.
Also, our big story later this week is about AI's impact on employment and wealth.
Impact? What impact? It's going to make everything better. Less work, more money, right? Give the robots guns. What could go wrong?
How's your week going?
Weeks. It's been weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, weeks. Well, we made it through the holidays.
Congratulations.
Which was a lot. But we somehow managed to fill the rear cargo of my wife's SUV is 36 cubic feet, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Not enough for us. Had to put a Yakima roof box on, so another 18 cubic feet. Filled all that up just with stuff.
Where were you going?
Not even far. Going for like a week. Like the kids get gifts and then we had their snow stuff because we're going to go to the snow. There was no snow because it's like 60 degrees in Flagstaff. We had fun. We just had too much stuff. At the end of my packing adventure, my in-laws are screwing with me and we're like, hey, here's a bag of corn tortillas. Bet you can't fit these in there. And then I would just find space for them. And the little just kept going on until we all got bored with it. It was fun though. And it rained a lot.
Did it rain in Phoenix?
No, almost none. It was like drizzly.
No.
But here, wow, I watched on the cameras. I'm surprised I came home to a house. I thought it was just going to be like a mudslide.
Oh, it was insane. It has got to be one of the wettest winters in the last 20 years.
It's pretty wet last year, too. Remember, we had those couple of weeks where we got a ton of rain last year, and this is even earlier, so yeah.
Downtown LA is currently at 312% of normal rainfall.
Wow. What's normal, by the way?
100% is normal.
No, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the math. I'm saying, what were the averages of ever?
Yes.
From since we started recording in the 1890s of the past 10 years?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you want to hear more about the storm?
Do you have more weather facts?
Because I've been watching it. I've been
All right,
obsessed with
Fritz,
it. Yeah,
hit me with it.
We got like 7 inches of rain in Beverly Hills.
That's a lot of rain.
In the last 30 days. For Pasadena
sure.
and the foothills, they got between 10 and 14 inches.
This is like LA story now, isn't it? We're doing the weather. We've gone from sports to the weather. This is great.
Listen, this is fun.
Yeah.
The entire California, in terms of drought relief, 0% of California's residents are currently in areas classified as in drought. 0.
Well, yeah, because it's raining. Of course. Good news. Almonds and pistachios are going to be way up this year. I can't wait.
Yep.
I did spend a decent amount of time trolling the people that like to troll me because I'm a proud Californian. When I saw people over the holiday, before they even say hello, they're like, how's your state doing?
Wet.
And of course, my response is, it's great. Like, it's beautiful. The weather's nice. We're figuring stuff out, And they're just like, mm-hmm. And then I don't engage. They don't engage with me. They sort of know that it's a losing battle. But my favorite was later somebody was eating some pistachios. And I was like, hey, where do you think those come from? And they look at me and they're like I don't know, the Middle East? Nope. California.
Exactly.
You like pistachios?
Middle California.
California. You keep eating them California nuts right there. Here's the thing about the rain. As Jeff mentioned earlier, it rained a ton here. I mean, it was just constant, nonstop rain, it seemed, over the holiday. But somehow, and I swear this is every year that I've been here, when the Rose Bowl hits.
Oh, dries right up.
It just dries right up.
Yeah.
Usually the clouds part and it's sunny. The Rose Bowl knows that Southern California is going to be on television. And they're like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then it's just beautiful. Now, we did miss the flyover. We didn't get the B2 flyover that we normally get at the Rose Bowl, which was a bummer.
It happened.
It happened like halftime. They were just like, well, I mean, I guess we already bought the fuel, so I guess like go ahead.
Sure.
And they sent it. But what was really cool, and I did see that. I saw that on the telecast. What I missed was apparently after the thing flew over the Rose Bowl, it just went and did like donuts over the Hollywood sign. And then it flew basically right over my house because my friends sent me video of this plane. They know I'm a plane dork and I'm constantly looking up in the sky. I wasn't thinking the B2 was going to go cruise around the valley for a while, which is exactly what it did.
Tourism.
Because I got video from people that were like, hey, look at this. What's happening? And I was like, well, that's the B2 from the flyover at the Rose Bowl. Like, I don't think we're bombing Tarzana for as much as I might want to. Like, I don't think that's what's happening. I love everybody in Tarzana. Don't send me hate mail. Anyway, just crazy to see that B2 flying around. But unfortunately, I missed it. It was fun. I cooked a ton. I made a bunch of food, which was lovely. We had some people over at various events.
Yeah.
And all in all, I got no complaints. It was a lovely break. I didn't do a lot of work. I did almost no quote unquote work.
Wow.
Hung out with my kids and my family and really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
How about you? How was your holiday?
I got the world's most amazing Christmas gift. This actually happened quite to my delight and surprise. A friend of mine sent me the gift of pastrami.
Oh, who was that?
And it was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, literally the best pastrami I've ever tasted.
Yeah, go on.
This was off the chart. By the way, pretty cool you have a commercial grade vacuum seal. that thing came in. That was amazing.
Totally.
When I saw that, I was like, wow, no one's fooling around here.
So what Jeff's referring to is I made pastrami for the holiday and sent him some. Here's what's nuts about that. First of all, it's a cured meat, so it lasts forever. Because that's why we cured the meat. However, I want it to be as fresh as possible when you get it. So I vacuum pack it, which is relatively easy to do. Here's what's nuts. You know, when you vacuum pack it, you suck all the air out of the bag. Obviously, that's the vacuum part. Yeah. But you can watch the fat come out of the meat
I'm sure.
as it's under vacuum. And every time I see it, I have this immediate moment of like, oh boy, that's just terribly amazing because all the fat rushes out of the meat.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's the better way to send it because you could leave it in your fridge for like a week or two and it's totally fine. There's no oxygen to screw it up.
I think it lasted
minutes
because my kid was in town.
Yeah.
And so I think it lasted here about 6 minutes.
I really desperately wanted to bring it to you in person, but we were under the gun that day to get out of town. So I sent it in an Uber delivery. Now, Jeff and I do not live far apart. However, I just didn't want to take time to get over there. So I sent an Uber delivery. And here's what I do. I vacuum pack it and I give it to the Uber driver. I also give them a small piece because I think it's really mean.
Oh, that's nice.
To be like, hey, deliver this meat. Oh, by the way, you don't get any.
Sure.
And I feel like there's a slightly better odds of you getting it if I give them a small piece of it so that they can taste it and have some on the way over. But they were very kind and they delivered it to you.
I got it quickly. And I also got the Christmas cookies. Thank you very much for those.
Yes. Yeah. That was the smaller Christmas cookies. We normally do a much bigger Christmas cookies. We didn't have time this year. There might be some January cookies coming. I don't want to make any commitments.
That's terribly exciting. I'm going to mention also before we get off of how my week was, IU football.
Did they have any game? Did they have a game?
Wow. Yeah. The Crimson Tide suffered their worst blowout loss since 1998.
Yeah. It was a pretty good loss to watch. I enjoyed watching that.
This was Indiana's first ever Rose Bowl victory and their first ever bowl win of any kind since 1991.
Yeah. I mean, it was beyond a bowl of, hey, it's their first ever bowl anything. It's Indiana.
That game was fun.
I watched the game. It was incredible. It was not as enjoyable as watching USC destroy the Sooners in, what was that, 2005 at the Orange Bowl.
You got to go back in time. You got to go back 20 years to remember those victories.
Oh, yeah. No, they're terrible now.
Yeah.
Now it's just a money pit.
The Hoosiers advance to the semifinals at the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, where they will face number 5 Oregon on January 9th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. I will be watching with snacks in hand. This will be a rematch of their October regular season meeting, which Indiana won 30-20. No bets that they win at this because Oregon is really good.
Well, the finals in Miami, in Florida, which is...
We're not in the finals yet. This is the semifinals.
I think Oregon's going to be tough, but I think you're going to do it.
Oregon's going to be tough.
And here's the best... Do you know the best part? I think you already know this, but pretend like you don't. So here's the absolute best thing about this is if you guys beat Oregon, which again, I believe you will do, but if IU beats Oregon, then that triggers a clause in your head coach's contract.
Yes, I know.
That he then has to be paid in one of the top 5 GDP nations. He will actually be a member of the G7 after that happens, because apparently they somehow let that go through in his contract.
Both head coaches, Indiana's Kurt Cignetti and Oregon's Dan Lanning, are former assistants under Nick Saban, adding a Saban disciple narrative to the semifinals.
Yeah, which I also love watching Nick be the commentator on some of these.
Quarterback Josh Hoover from Texas Christian University has committed to Indiana this weekend.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, our good pal Lincoln Riley has 6 more years on his contract at USC.
Okay, yeah, you can measure it in years. I like to think of it more as he's got $70 more million on his contract. That's sort of how I think think of it. I know you're down on Lincoln. I'm still optimistic. I know the first couple. I think it takes a couple years. Like you want to give them a runway. You want to give them some stride.
We're 4 years into this. How many years into this?
You know, it takes a little while. You don't want to rush right into it. You want to just take your time. Oh, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna just pay him out and move somewhere else? It sounds terrible. He's not doing.
Yes.
Okay. Besides doing that, I don't know.
Let's get to our headline, shall we?
Let's do it.
It's a new year, why not?
I'd love to.
The $2 billion mission to move a city before the ground swallows it.
That sounds ominous.
Kiruna, a Swedish city 145 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, is literally on the move. To sustain Europe's largest underground iron ore mine and tap into massive new rare earth deposits, the entire town is being relocated 3 kilometers east. This $2 billion engineering feat involves moving 6,000 residents and historic landmarks like the 113-year-old wooden church to escape the ground sinking caused by mining. The project is a geopolitical pivot. These minerals are critical for EVs and wind turbines as the EU races to break its dependence on China. While some residents embrace the modern new center, others face the heartbreak of losing generational homes, highlighting the high human cost of Europe's green energy sovereignty.
It's a super fascinating story. I mean, it makes sense. I'm glad they're doing the relocation. We've seen this before, right? The folks in China did this for the Three Gorges Dam, I think, 20-ish years ago. A lot more people. I think there you're talking about like 1.3.
Did they relocate them or did they just flood them out?
Nobody knows. It was China. Either way is more likely. Who knows?
Sure.
But supposedly they moved 1.3 million people over somewhere else.
Yeah.
Again, nobody knows. But what is interesting to me about this is this really shouldn't be a surprise to the folks of Kiruna because, as you know, Mojang Studios, who makes Minecraft, is out of Sweden. And it is literally a game about mining stuff.
It's out of Beverly Hills now. He lives here.
Now, well, he sold to Microsoft. It's out of Redmond now. But I feel like this shouldn't be a surprise to them, the mining. Maybe that's where he got the idea from.
But this is preemptive moving. Yeah. This is not moving because of the future mining. They're moving because of mining that has already occurred. Yeah. They know the ground will start to sink because of mining already done. So there's a little bit of an urgency to this.
There's no better way to get somebody to accept your plan of relocation than by already making it terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about the cause and effect there, that's a good path.
6,000 residents, though, that's doable. You could move 6,000 residents. I don't know. Do they move everybody's individual house or do they just say,
no, it's just one night.
Equivalent house.
At one night, they just come in and move everything, and you just wake up the next day. It's like Christmas morning. Everything's just moved to a new place.
Have you seen the video of the church?
Yes, it's crazy.
113-year-old church moving?
Yeah, I had a friend like this when I was a kid who had a house when he was a kid as well. It's all brick. This is in Michigan. He told these stories of it being moved, and I was like, "You're not moving a brick house. This doesn't make any sense."
Oh, yeah.
And they had pictures in the house of what looked like the house being apparently somewhere else, but they had moved it because they were putting the freeway in. Long story short, I remember one day in his garden as like a teenager finding rails, actual like train track rails.
Of course.
And that was how they moved it. They put it on train track rails and then pulled it with horses to slide it over, which just broke my brain that's feasible.
Yeah, my uncle used to move buildings like this commercially. And you do, and even the best trained people doing this, occasionally you do end up with a giant pile of sand.
Just rubble.
You do. You end up with a giant pile of rubble. That's exactly right.
I mean, I'm sure this happened when you were at SC, but I remember not knowing this was the thing and coming back from school one day, living just off campus, whatever, midnight, 2 a.m, tired, bleary-eyed, and then there'd be a house on like Vermont Avenue, like a house being moved.
Oh, rolling, yeah.
On Vermont Avenue. I was like, what is happening right now?
Go to Angelino Heights. Angelino Heights allowed them to move all the houses there.
Right?
And so you have all these beautiful historic homes, that are just gorgeous.
It's really cool that you have this like community up there of all these houses that got moved. It's pretty impressive.
I drive through it on the way to Dodger Stadium. I love it.
Well, I think what you meant to say was you cut through it on the way to Dodger Stadium.
I wasn't going to say it that way, no.
We know what you mean.
It is where they shoot when you need something to sand in for San Francisco. If you don't have the travel budget to go to San Francisco.
Totally.
And you're making a movie, it's always Angelino Heights.
You don't want anything to look like Full House, so you shoot it there.
Right.
This is still super interesting that they're doing this. It seems like the right thing to do. I mean, I'm not
of course.
crazy, but I have to relocate folks. But my understanding of the history of this town is that it was established as a city for the iron ore mining operation. Like, this town didn't exist and they started mining. The town was built to support the mine and the people that worked in the mine. So I feel like it's a little more conducive to getting them to move.
Oh, it's in the north. You're not there unless you are there for the mine. I can't imagine anything else you would want to be doing that far north. It's very cold.
Pickling fish? I don't know, something.
You can pickle fish on the equator, so I would choose that.
You're right. You can pickle fish anywhere. You just choose not to because you have taste buds elsewhere, I think is the problem.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, supposedly when the Chinese dammed the Yangtze River, that was 1.3 million people, 13 cities, 140 towns, and 1,300 plus villages. That was a lot, which I think here, my hunch is it's probably like one town if you were to put it on the same scale as the city, towns, and villages. Much, much smaller, but still pretty cool.
That's why I question whether or not they actually moved all 1.3 million residents or if they just said, you people have to move.
The bus was here. You get on the bus, you don't get on the bus. That's up to you.
Yeah.
Like, but at some point, you're not going to do well when they start backing up the water because it ain't going down. It's only going up. And that place produces 22 gigawatts of power, which is
and it's an environmental disaster also. But yes, it does produce an extraordinary amount of electrical power.
All dams are disasters. No dam, even the dams that beavers make are disasters. They're not
pretty small disasters.
Okay. Well, I'm not arguing the size of the disaster. I'm just saying stop the water.
Listener Ron sent us that story. I think that was interesting.
Thank you, Ron. Super interesting.
Finland seizes ship suspected of aggravated sabotage of subsea cables.
Is this a Nordic episode?
On New Year's Eve 2025, Finnish authorities seized the cargo vessel Fitberg after a critical undersea telecommunication cable connecting Helsinki to Estonia was severed. The ship, which had departed from St. Petersburg, was intercepted by a border guard helicopter and a patrol vessel after it was spotted dragging its anchor across the seabed for several miles. All 14 crew members, including Russian nationals, were detained as police investigated the incident for aggravated sabotage and interference with telecommunication. This marks the latest in a series of suspicious infrastructure failures in the Baltic Sea, which NATO allies increasingly view as Russian hybrid warfare. While the services have been rerouted, the seizure underscores heightened tensions as Finland vows to respond decisively to maritime security threats.
Yeah, I don't know how they are going to deal with this.
Strongly worded letter to Russia. That's as far as that's going to go.
That's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But like handwritten so that he actually opens it. Doesn't look like it's spam from some other country that they've pissed off.
Sure. Meanwhile, other countries are shutting down their postal system, so they might have to send it as an email.
Yeah, good point. This is interesting, though, because I didn't know anything about the Gulf of Finland, so this is part of the Baltic Sea. But as it turns out, you have around 12 nautical miles off your coast, right? That is considered part of your country.
Territorial waters, yeah.
Yeah, past that, it's it's like an economic zone.
You have an exclusive economic zone.
Yeah, so but not enforceable necessarily by your laws, by your criminal laws. It appears that this boat was going right down the middle between what would be Estonia and Finland's waters, and somehow, and the details are unclear to me. The Finnish Border Patrol got them to go into Finnish waters, and then they boarded it. So it was boarded when it was in Finnish waters.
Because there was a previous case where they arrested them in international water, and they didn't have the rights to do that.
But I also don't know how, if they were, it sort of implies they were dragging their anchor when they were in international waters. I don't know what you do with that, right? Because it was in international waters, and the nature of these cables is that they're going to go through international waters if they have to, right? Because you're connecting two separate countries. So this just sounds like a very sticky wicket, and I don't really know what you do to prevent it. It seems like a real challenge.
Well, modern internet cables, when you put in a modern internet cable now, there's a trench digger that precedes you.
That's so cool.
And they're literally going under the ground, under the ocean, like 4 or 5 feet or something. It's not super deep.
Just enough so that it gets out of the anchor's
They're
path.
making a little, they're making a trench so that you're out of the way of anchors.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll see how this works out. It does not sound like fun. You look at the number of cables. I did have to pull up the underground submarine cable map for the entire planet. Good news is there's a lot of cables going between these various countries.
Just reroute.
But I don't know what sort of level of consumption they have on those, or what sort of amount of potential bandwidth they're using.
It just means that the cat pictures arrive a little more slowly.
And a little more pixelated?
Maybe.
They load a little slower?
Maybe.
Everything's like Skinamax. It's just coming in kind of, you have to like move your head back and forth really fast in order to see it. Like, what's their response? Like, hey, you're dragging your anchor. Like what? Like drunk after New Year's?
Oh, what's their excuse? There's no other reason to drag your anchor except for the fact that you're hoping to snag cables.
Yeah, totally. But like, how are you just like, oh, we forgot it was there? Like what? Your boat is going 1/3 the speed it was before. Like what?
And those cables are all very well mapped, so it's not accidental.
Yeah.
SpaceX defensive maneuver, relocating more than 4,000 satellites to avoid debris. They caused the debris, but
that's not the point. Look, if I go to Yellowstone and I throw all my big gulp cups out the window and it's a mess, it's still a mess. Doesn't matter that I made the mess. I'm still going to leave and go somewhere else.
SpaceX has begun a massive reconfiguration of its Starlink constellation. Over the course of 2026, the company will lower approximately 4,400 satellites from an altitude of 550 kilometers to 480 kilometers. This strategic shift, coordinated with the U.S. Space Command, aims to drastically reduce collision risks and orbital debris.
Well, that sounds good.
This comes on the heel of a December 2025 kinetic event where a Starlink satellite malfunctioned and created a small debris cloud.
Kinetic event. Yes, when two things in space run into each other and then produce a lot more parts.
When two things anywhere run into each other and create a lot more parts.
Well, the advantage is here you have gravity that kind of keeps those things together and somewhat contained.
That's why they're moving moving to the lower shell.
That's part of the hope, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets pulled in faster.
Instead of 4 years of orbiting, the debris will fall after months.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'll be curious to see what sort of effect this has on the night sky. I mean, you're only talking about a 10% reduction in height. That's still pretty significant.
Each satellite will be quite a bit brighter,
bigger and brighter.
Those of us on Earth, yes.
For those of us on Earth. Not for listeners that aren't on Earth. Those ones, they'll see no perceived difference.
If you're listening from Saturn, and hello, Saturn.
I just looked at our analytics the other day. Our Mars viewership is up.
Excellent.
It's very high.
Beyond safety, the move is expected to sharpen internet performance, decreasing signal latency and boosting customer density.
So what is really nuts about this article was the things that I didn't know. So that SpaceX already has something like 9,400 working satellites in orbit.
Wow.
And something like 8,000 of them are Starlinks that are in operational service.
Yeah.
That's a lot of birds, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I didn't know is they are cranking out somewhere, this is what SpaceX has said, but I have no reason not to believe them, that they're cranking out something like 10 new Starlink satellites a day.
That's amazing.
They're building those up in Redmond. What I also didn't know, there's a lot of here I didn't know, was that their new version 3 satellite platform that they're supposed to launch later this year, it's too big to fit on the Falcon 9.
Yeah, it doesn't fit in the Falcon 9.
So those have to be done on their super heavy Starship rockets. And I don't know the specifics and differences, but obviously it's much bigger, so I'm assuming it's going to have more bandwidth and more of the good things.
And more cost to put it up.
And more cost, yeah, for sure. So I'll be curious to see how that's evolving, but I'm somewhat fascinated by their constellation and the other constellations that are coming to compete with that.
Yeah.
They're not the only game, they're just early.
In other space news, Russia fixes the leak that wouldn't die. After years of mounting tension and hissing hardware, Roscosmos has finally delivered. The persistent leak in the Russian segment of the International Space Station is officially sealed. The pre-chow module, which has been bleeding precious atmosphere and diplomatic goodwill for over 2 years, was secured following a high-stakes series of spacewalks and surgical applications of a specialized epoxy. For a Russian space program battered by budget cuts and launch failures, this isn't just a maintenance win, it's a survival milestone. The leak had forced crew members to keep hatches shuttered, effectively turning the station into a series of airlocked islands. With the pressure stabilized, the ISS returns to full operational capacity.
First of all,
Yes.
leaking any atmosphere when you're in space is bad, like really bad. This wasn't like a recent fix. They've been trying to fix this thing for, I think, something like over a decade.
Well, but they think the hole was made when it was on Earth before the whole thing was launched into space.
I don't actually know. So it's like a 2-millimeter hole. They question whether it was made on Earth accidentally. No, they don't think it was like sabotage, but they question it was made accidentally and then somebody like puttied it over to cover it up because it was like
tried to hide
oops, drill a hole in the billion-dollar spacecraft. That's probably a no-no. Okay, so whatever. They found it years ago, and then their approach has included things like they will airlock off this particular component, leave it for a while, and then go in and try to see where the dust has collected. They're trying to see where crap was exiting the spacecraft so they could see where, like, you know, it was going out. Don't think they had a lot of luck with that. So they did flail, at least my definition, flail a little bit. Like they tried to patch things that they thought were holes without really knowing that they were holes. And it sounds like they finally found it. Like they finally got the right one.
Sure.
There was no real clarity on, oh, it's this thing, right? This was the thing. We had to go patch it. They just kind of kept doing what they were doing, and now it's not losing pressure anymore, which is a huge win.
So they found it.
Well, they did something that seems to have stopped it. Found it. Ugh. I mean, I'd have to know more specifics if they feel like it's conclusive. And
they did a lot of patches. One of them happened to be over the right area.
I mean, at some point, you just lined the whole damn thing.
And they patched it from the outside.
Oh, I didn't know that. Was this one on the outside as well?
They actually had to do spacewalks.
I know they've done spacewalks previously. Yeah, that's crazy. They don't talk about this, but I suspect, remember, Butch had like another 9 months of extended stay up there.
Sure.
I gotta believe one of the astronauts just like chucked up a Makita drill and just poked a hole in the side.
And said, airlock, we got to airlock. Keep Butch's air to himself.
Yeah, sorry. Butch, go hang out in there and we can vent your extra bonus atmosphere to the space.
Bonus atmosphere.
We think Butch likes to fart a lot. This hasn't been conclusively proved, but we happen to think that's what was going on. I don't know. All I know is one day I'm going to get punched in the throat by Butch when he meets me in person, and I'm going to deserve it, and that's okay.
You won't know who it is.
I'll have
you won't
no idea who it
him.
is. Yeah. It'll be like, remember when somebody yelled at Buzz Aldrin about how the moon landing was faked and he like literally punched him in the face?
Oh, I don't remember that.
I feel like that's what's going to happen.
Crazy.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was Buzz Aldrin. Some, crackpot was yelling one day about how it was faked and he literally punched them.
Link in show notes if it's real.
It was kind of like when Jack Nicholson went after somebody's windshield with some golf clubs and you're like, well.
That happened with a 9-iron.
No one's ever going to piss him off in traffic ever again, right? Like that was a one and done. He paid for one windshield and now that guy gets the red carpet anywhere he's driving in LA.
Sure.
I would just be like, oh no, please, Mr. Nicholson, please pass me on the shoulder. I don't care. Just don't attack me with a 9-iron.
Okay, enough of the headlines. In fact, enough of the episode. episode. We have to get out of here. Special thanks to our floor director, Eric Figueroa.
Oh, thanks for kicking off season 4, Eric.
We'll be back later this week with our big story, how AI disrupts jobs. Until then, thank you for listening to all this nonsense. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Jill.
I'm the sales rep for Flex Seal for the ISS.
Oh, they should have used Flex Seal. Why did they just use Flex Seal?
For a hole in your space station or a whole new space station?
I like them building like an ISS out of
screen
mesh, screen material, and then spraying it with Flex Seal, and then just getting in space and being like, look, it's fine. That's really funny.
Citizens of this great republic, are you weary of the clatter and stench of a common stable?
Huh?
Do you tire of the temperamental beast and the endless toil of the harness? Behold, a miracle of modern science has arrived from the workshops of Des Moines, Iowa. Mr. William Morrison proudly presents the Morrison Electric Wagon. Marvel at the sight of a carriage that moves not by hoof, but by the very lightning of the heavens. No steam to scald you, no soot to soil your finest linens, and, heaven be praised, no oats to buy.
These are all problems I currently have.
Yeah.
Man, I hate when I get soot all over my finest linens.
You're laughing. Do you know what this is?
I'm constantly getting scalded by steam. This is amazing. Please keep going.
This is no mere novelty, friends. It's a triumph of American ingenuity with room for 6 passengers to sit in upholstered dignity. Mr. Morrison's carriage glides at a breathtaking 14 miles per hour. It is as silent as a shadow and as clean as a whistle. Whether you're a man of commerce seeking the future or a lady of society desiring the most elegant conveyance in town, the electric wagon is your calling card to the 20th century. The age of the horse is galloping away. Step into the age of the electron. The Morrison Electric Carriage, available now for the discerning citizen. Inquire at once and lead the procession of progress.
Now, I've met some of these, quote, ladies of society before, usually late at night at the bar in Vegas, and I was always told not to make eye contact with them or talk to them.
Sure.
Is that okay? I just want to make sure I got the
Probably
same.
a good
okay,
idea not to,
Yeah.
Fun fact, obviously this is for the first commercially available electric car.
I kind of sort of know a tiny bit about this because in the times that I've toured Mr. Leno's garage, he has at least one of these.
He has a Baker Electric,
which is really cool. And I don't think he does it anymore, but he used to take it out like around Christmas time. He would go out with his wife and they would cruise through the Griffith Park light show, the little Christmas light show there.
Sure.
It's a really neat, I mean, it looks like a carriage, right? It's just a carriage.
Oh, totally.
That they put some batteries into.
Like a lead acid battery, too. It's not even like a fancy battery.
Yeah, of course. But, well, then that was pretty fancy. I mean, it stored, quote, electricity from the heavens. So that's pretty cool.
Fun fact, before you guess the year.
I love fun facts.
By 1900, electric cars were actually more popular than gasoline cars.
Well, we had more of them.
They were quiet. They didn't smell. They didn't require dangerous hand crank start that gas engines did. At the turn of the century, about 1/3 of all vehicles in the U.S. roads were electric.
What a silly stat. In the 1950s, mainframes were more popular than personal computers. Okay. Sure.
Okay, there you go.
That makes sense.
Well, there were gasoline cars. There just weren't nearly as many.
In the early 2000s, flip phones were way more popular than iPhones. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's true.
You didn't give anything away to me by saying by the 1900s. My understanding is this was like the 1890s is my recollection. I want to say 1895, but I don't really know. I'm going to guess 1893 just to middle.
1898.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So I was a little early.
Just slightly.
That's still fascinating to me.
There were, by the way, electric cars earlier. This was just the first commercially available one.
What does that mean? Like you couldn't buy one?
Yeah, there were other ones that people had created that in very low volumes.
Like one-offs?
Yeah, one or very,
interesting.
low volume production.
And my hunch is, I don't know this to be factual, so I don't want to be sued for libel. But my understanding is, or at least my guess is that this Morrison electric wagon, you said 1898, that was the year?
Yeah.
My hunch is the autopilot on it probably did better than Tesla.
Oh, for sure. Of course it
today.
did.
Just slowly run over. The problem with these Morrison electric wagons, though, is every time you'd pull up like to the Westfield, the chargers would all be full.
Always.
You'd be there waiting in line. Everybody, the horse would just be feeding them oats, just going wherever they wanted. I could just get oats from anywhere and feed them whatever.
Lots of oat stations. No place you can charge these things. Sure.
Plenty of oat stations. I'm sorry. Do you want the unleaded oats or are you getting the flavored oats? What does your horse prefer? My horse is German. It needs the higher grade oats, please.
The Morrison Electric Carriage, 1898.
I was so close.